Hello, everyone. Welcome to the closing panel of the Canadian Immigrant Virtual Fair, presented to you by the Bank of Montreal. We're thrilled to have you join us at the Canadian Immigrant Virtual Fair. This is for the Western region, and hope you're enjoying the fair so far. So I'd like to start off our closing panel session. The road to success is paved with soft skills, a very important topic indeed. And in this panel discussion, we will be speaking with experts and ask them for their perspectives on the importance of soft skills in finding career success. Soft skills are personal attributes that you have to build on, including communication skills, teamwork, listening skills, time management, and any others our panelists are going to share. So I'd like to thank Leen, Catherine Steele, Garrison Duke, and Miroslav Reljic for joining me here today to speak with you. My name is Ramya Ramanathan. I'm the editor of Canadian Immigrant, and I'm joined by my colleagues Laura Jackman, Sanjay Agnihotri, and Ricky Bajaj. So during this discussion, we will ask questions relevant to everyone's specific professions. And this will be followed by a general discussion with all panelists. And finally, we will open the floor to questions from all of you. If you have any questions for Leen, Catherine, Garrison, or Miro, just feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. You can also email us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca. So this session is being recorded and will be available later. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker, Leen Lee. Hi, hello, Leen. Leen is the Leen is the Chief Executive Officer at the Wealthsimple Foundation, a foundation helping to make education accessible to every child in Canada. Leen holds an MBA in finance from the Sobey School of Business at St. Mary's University and sits on the board of George Brown College Foundation and the advisory board of Move the Dial and MedChart. Leen, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to start off with the first question. Can you share challenges and frustrations that you've had to face on your road to building a thriving career? Can you speak about them and how you dealt with them?
First, thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be part of the closing panel today. I came to Canada about 20 years ago, shared a lot of, I think, similar stories and the challenges as other immigrants, regardless of what time you come here. I think a couple of things really stood out to me. The very first one is the lack of network, especially at the beginning of my career here in Canada. And then the difficulty to build a network while you need it to have a career here. I think like the lack of network is like says itself. When you a newcomer to a new country, you either come on your own or with your family. Really don't really have that connection you build at your home countries. And then because of cultural difference and sometimes the language difference and the barrier really prevented me at that time to actually quickly communicate with other people and build networks on my own. A lot of the soft skills that I had when I was in China, back in my home country, no longer apply here. For example, communication, really clearly to share my ideas and asking questions are totally gone at the very beginning. So that was kind of the one part I still remembered is not growing up here, didn't really know the sports here, didn't know the culture here, really have to learn very quickly. One really kind of the thing I found it was very useful is actually stop thinking about your English, but just to communicate as regular person. So I call them communicate from your heart. As long as you show that you really care about another person during a conversation, you can actually eventually get by the language barrier. And asking questions about another person to really interested in learning more about other people. I use that opportunity to build that connections. You can have that your own network. At the very beginning, I think that was very helpful. The second challenge I can remember is just the loss of common sense, right? So when I came when I was 25, so I was an adult. And I had worked in China before. So suddenly I came to this new country. I couldn't even open a bank account, I remember, on my first week. Not knowing where to go grocery shopping, not knowing where to open a bank account to get help. So that was the biggest challenge for me at the very beginning. I think a platform like today is really helpful for you to actually connect with experts in the country to help you navigate a different part of your life, especially the first kind of 6-12 months. I think that's very important. Second piece is like in terms of soft skills, I found it's important to be resourceful. Especially when you come to a new country, you don't really know a lot of things. Really leverage the people you know, leverage the platform like today to actually build that connections, to understand the little things about living in this country, what programs, what government assistance programs you can leverage, and that will take a long way as well. That's just like a couple of things I can think of.
Great, very comprehensive, thank you. And if I asked you, what attributes served you well on your settlement journey? Could you share your experience?
I think I was lucky in a way. I came as an international student at the very beginning, and I worked in China for about 5 years. So I came fairly mature. I think that early maturity and then the time to develop the soft skills back home, along with the education I got in Canada, really helped me to strive in my career. Couple of things stand out for me is be yourself. Meaning that a lot of times you face challenges, especially when you come to here, people would doubt about you, who you are, your capability. And sometimes they tend to put us in a very downward spiral. So how to build that resilience along the way to deal with setbacks is very important. Along that journey, one thing I found personally is very important through your life and career is to find mentors, found advocates, found your promoters and your cheerleaders. So the time that when you feel so down, that you can go to also those group of people to really build up your confidence. So I think that being able to create a network on your own based on who you are and being able to go back to tap into that communication is very important. Don't try to change yourself, try to improve yourself, right?
Great advice there, thank you. And having found your voice as a female in a male-dominated industry, based on your own experience, what learnings would you like to share with women in the audience?
First of all, one day, multiple times, you will find somebody implies or you would think that you get this job or you get to where you are because you're a woman, because a woman of color, because immigrant. I think the biggest lesson is you have to let it go. When some people doubt about you, your capability, try to change their opinion all the time is not the best way to spend your energy and the time. Let it go. In order to let that thought go, recognizing that we're not perfect. I think in general speaking, society try to teach women to be perfect, right? When you're a little girl. No, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. No one expects us to be perfect. We are supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to learn from those mistakes and just really kind of learn from it and move on, not stuck into that concept. The world is like, we're supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to make mistakes. I think that was kind of the learnings for me. One last thing on this is like, learn to quit when you need to, right? Don't stick around, right? You can quit a bad job. You can quit a bad boss. You can quit a, not going anywhere project. You can quit a bad relationship. It's not, quitting is not necessarily failure. Knowing when to quit and learn from that experience are more important than the process itself.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing such personal advice. We will hear more from you shortly.
Thank you.
Our next panelist joining us today is Garrison Duke. Garrison is the Director of Employment and Language Programs at DIVERSEcity. He brings more than 16 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, leading community projects, helping assisting unemployed individuals, immigrant youth, and indigenous people. Garrison sits on multiple boards, including the British Columbia Multicultural Advisory Council. So Garrison, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and I'm already inspired by Leen. Great
That
story.
is great. So my first question is, what are the common challenges with soft skills that you see immigrants and newcomers face in their settlement journey? And once you've identified these challenges, do you have suggestions on how best they can deal with them?
Thank you. I think no one needs soft skills nowadays. What do you think? I think soft skills are very, very important, and it's so underreported in other countries, and there's not an emphasis on that. But what confounds most newcomers, outside of North America, people are known for their technical skills. Technical skills get them promoted, gets them job interviews, and helps them to build their careers. And they're looked upon as quite an honorable field to be in. Any technical skills. You can even look at Germany and their approach to maybe a plumber, and they call them mechanical engineers over there. So just people's opinions on technical skills, it's very different outside of North America. So when newcomers come to North America, they're a bit confounded because in North America, it's totally different. It's the soft skills that get you ahead, your ability to be able to present, and that builds your career. So some newcomers may not have issues finding, being recruited for a job interview. But when the interview starts, that's where the issues happen, and they're unable to close the deal because they lack those presentation skills. So when you look at it, what are soft skills? It's being able to communicate effectively, your ability to use influential language, using verbal and nonverbal communication. In North America and employers in Canada, a lot of emphasis is put on persuasive language. Being able to tell a story is so vital. Being able to take wide amounts of information and condense it and be able to give the Coles notes on a subject and be able to get a point of view. Extremely valuable skill sets. So the hard skills can get you to the interview, but it's really those soft skills that land you those permanent jobs. Employers are looking for people that can, engage in conflict resolution, network and connect with people and build on those networks, time management skills, leadership skills, their ability, and this is really a very important one, their ability to give and receive feedback in a way that is receptive. So there's a lot of issues when people come here, they don't quite know the culture, and it's very hard to navigate. And in their thinking, they're saying, well, I have the skill sets, I have the technical skills, what's the problem? Well, you have to be able to communicate.
Great, thank you so much. And I also want to add, it's also landing your job and growing in your job, right? Soft skills are so important too.
That's right. It's actually important for all of us in our careers.
All of us, absolutely true. So my next question is, would you like to highlight some specific programs and initiatives that newcomers and immigrants can access to develop soft skills on their journey to success?
Yep.
You can talk about diversity, but also in general about programs that are available in the Western region or generally that people can look up, via Google or another tool.
Yeah, I would encourage people to go to our website, dcrs.ca. We do have language training programs, and many community service providers offer those. And in our language training programs, we offer something called conversation circles, which our students are not only learning the language, but they group together and talk about issues and relevant issues in the news and that, and it's conversational. So they build those skills. I'd also encourage what we've heard before, building and expanding your networks. And everybody's a bit nervous meeting new people and all that sort of thing, but we have to really come outside of ourselves to expose ourselves to more of the Canadian culture, start to model behaviors that you may see. And with those networks, you're developing friends, you're also developing possibly mentors and job leads from those people that you meet. That's even a better soft introductory to the labor market if you know someone in different sectors. Some individuals, they'll go to Toastmasters to work on getting in front of people and speaking. There's excellent avenues. There's churches. If you're a member of a church or some religious organization, you can actually practice up front and learn how to present in front of a lot of people. It's really about getting comfortable with how you present and yourself. And yes, please be yourself when you try to communicate. I find that when I talk to newcomers, they may have a bit of an accent and they get so hard on themselves, but you can actually understand quite clearly what they're trying to say, but they just need that little confidence or maybe familiarity with some of the nuances in language that we use and some of the slang. So I would say definitely get yourself out there. You can join groups, but you have to get yourself out there and involved. Volunteering is an excellent place to start, and at DIVERSEcity we have a real robust volunteer program as well.
Great advice. Thank you so much. So we'll come back to you at the end with a couple more questions. But next up, we have Catherine Steele. Catherine is a speaker, coach, and consultant who trains corporate teams and individuals on clear speaking skills necessary to be competitive in today's global marketplace. And her experience is with coaching over 7,000 clients on pronunciation for personal and professional success. And this has made her one of the most sought after speakers on pronunciation in Canada. So thank you for joining us, Catherine. Nice to see you again. And I believe you have a presentation to share, right, on key tips related to communication skills.
So maybe I'll have a little conversation on the first question, and then I will put up my PowerPoint for the second question.
Great. So in terms of, feel free to start off with your presentation and we'll go from there.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So I'm answering the second question, and the two speakers before me have really well opened this topic. We're looking at soft skills from the lens of someone wanting to hire and to build their own company. And so where things can fall apart is if the person doesn't trust that the connections will be made with clients. So usually we're thinking, if I hire someone for my company, that's great. They look great on paper. But when I think about the client and the reaction of the client in terms of communication, I have to think again, in some cases, will this be a good match? Will my client appreciate the skills of this person that I'm hiring? Because especially in Vancouver, where I'm located, we have so many small businesses. I think it's about 97% small business, and you can't risk alienating a client for any reason, especially now in these times, it's very important. So what we're looking at from my perspective is sound, and how sound can impact your communication and how it can often have a negative impact. And I know that especially because when I wake up in the morning, I haven't got a voice. Either is no voice or I sound like a frog, a very low voice. The low voice can sound very aggressive and very angry. And even my family will say, "What's wrong? What did I do?" when I answer the phone with my really low morning voice, if I've been recording my programs at night and haven't had enough sleep. So what people don't realize, we've talked about coming with an amazing amount of skill, education, knowledge, experience, getting the interview. And then we've talked about the soft skills, the networking, the presenting yourself funding pitches, all those things that require more expression and more persuasion, as Garrison was saying. So I'm now adding the layer of North Americans using sound to indicate emotion and to indicate opinion. And unfortunately, many, many languages will arrive in Canada sounding aggressive or condescending or bored or young or uninterested. There's something about the tone of the original language that when you apply it to English, and English in North America specifically, it will be misunderstood as an opinion that the person has about the person that they're speaking to. So that's where we run into problems. And I'm going to talk about that in my PowerPoint. I'm just going to connect a little bit more with, if you look at me and you think, okay, she was born here, she's had family here for several generations, and obviously English was the main language of those people. What does she know about pronunciation and the difficulty when you get to another place? And so I've lived and worked in Quebec, which I was in a French-speaking part of Quebec, Japan, and Mexico. So I have some knowledge of how difficult this is to work as a professional in a second language. But what really makes the point is when I was a child, I had a damaging injury to my tongue. I had a cut that cut my tongue severely. And so I needed to learn to speak again. And I understand what's happening inside people's mouths. So those really difficult sounds, I'm also very specialized in those. So Ramya, should I put up my PowerPoint and give you
that would be great. So
three
you just
strategies?
share the screen, and thank you for sharing that personal background.
You're very welcome.
Very inspiring. So you're just hitting the green button and doing the share screen.
Perfect. I think I've done something a little earlier than I needed to. I think I have it. And I'm not sure why it's not on the slide that I want. Just give me a moment.
Yes, we have you here.
Okay. And do we? All right. So do you see 3 communication strategies that create?
Absolutely. You're good. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, here we go. Now, for some reason, there we go. So as Ramya mentioned, I am known internationally as a pronunciation coach, a soft skills trainer, and a diversity strategist. And you can see that the book that I'm part of, this is Trish Mandewa's book, Growth Strategies for the Hungry Entrepreneur. She's a city councilor here in Coquitlam. And she invited me to participate. I'm chapter 3 on communication. So I am a strategist. Strategy is one of my main beliefs, that if you can find a trick, a tip, or a way of handling something, especially as an adult in fields like engineering, tech, accounting, project management, healthcare, there's a pattern. And if you can find that pattern, you can solve the problem. So here we go. Strategy number 1, ask for help. And I always say, do you ask for help? And everybody says, yes, but they say, could you please correct me on my English? This is not the right question. And this is something that people don't really realize. What happens is that it doesn't work. So I'm going to say, does it work? Or does the request create a problem for someone? Does the culture allow that person to correct you? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And do you want to sound like you aren't professional? And this was my problem in Quebec. And when I was teaching French immersion, I never wanted to admit that I didn't know the phrase, the perfect phrase in French. I was shy to say that I didn't know. I thought I might look less professional. So do this instead. This is the question. Would it help me to move up in my career if I joined a public speaking club like Toastmasters, as Garrison mentioned, took a business writing course, got pronunciation coaching? So target the question in this way, and then the answer you get, you may not recognize that they're saying yes. So what does a strong yes sound like? It sounds like, that might help. It's very, very gentle. So even though the word might indicates a 50-50 chance in grammar, in this context, it really means, yes, I'm so glad you mentioned it. I was too embarrassed to say anything, but that would really help. And the person might even suggest something else. They might say, no, 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 you don't need to get more training. You have a PhD, for goodness sake, don't go for more schooling. What I think you should focus on is, and then they will give you some suggestions. So in Canada, correcting another adult is almost impossible. It's a very strong taboo. I cannot tell you that there's something wrong because you're an adult. I could tell a small child under the age of 8, a little bit older, and I start to, hesitate to correct. So unfortunately, it leaves immigrants with no answers to important questions about culture. So this is what I want to bring you today. Strategy number 2, accept feedback gracefully. And again, how does that look? One of the things you must know is that if you say, but in my country, you have already created a barrier and you don't want this barrier. I'm going to show you why. Canadians hear, well, that's dumb. Oh, we're smarter in my country. Or I don't like you. I don't want to be in Canada. And none of those are true, most likely. And it is definitely not what you want the other person to understand. But in my country has that effect on Canadians. The strategic answer is thank you, right? If someone corrects you, and it might hurt you. I remember being in Quebec and my advanced level French teacher said he didn't understand me. It was my pronunciation. This is another reason that I became a pronunciation coach. At first, I was so hurt. And then I realized, no, I trust him and he's going to help me. So say thank you. And then say, I'm so glad you told me. I didn't realize. That's so helpful. Because even if they were saying it to hurt your feelings, and in some cases, yes, people will be doing it to hurt your feelings, you can diffuse the situation and say, you know what, you were the first person that was brave enough to tell me. And though I know we're in the middle of an argument here, but I'm so happy that you told me because I really didn't know. And then you say, tell me more. Tell me more. And that opens the opportunity to get more correction, more answers to things. Strategy 3, get training. It won't always come out of a book. You can see this woman, this must be what we're doing right now, virtual training. In fact, I can do a lot about body language and facial expression that is very important here in Canada online. You want the training that will lead to your goal. So I've already mentioned it doesn't mean getting another degree. Canadians value lifelong learning. We have long evenings that we fill with classes. Our language is difficult, so we practice to get better as professionals. And it's important to know that most training at a professional level is paid for by the professional, right? Sometimes people are looking for a way to do this for free. At the level that most of you are not going to get free training. However, there are options. So the Canadian government pays employers for soft skills training. So you need to look at that through your employer. So here, in some cases, is my caveat, and you may not be in Canada. So I want you to know before you arrive, number 1 is start with your employer. Ask for the soft skills training grant that will be paid through the government. Number 2, ask about funding available for professional development through your job. They might have some money set aside, or they might even create something just for you. And third option, pay for your training. Most people do pay for their own training. If you find something good, just go for it. It will serve you. So this again is the reminder, and I'm going to show you this link. I've separated it so that everyone can see it. This is the link that I have on my website that gives the different funding programs in the different provinces in Canada. So, and I'm happy to put that in a chat if you would like as well. If you would like to stay connected, this is a way to get information from me. And if you have questions, I'm happy to take them. And I think I'll leave questions till the very end.
And yes,
there are other panelists, and I welcome everybody's comments and questions. So I will share.
In the chat box, right? Okay.
Yes. And have I given you back the share? So
yes, we're good. So thank you. That was great, as usual. Our final panelist joining us today is Miro. Miroslav Reljic is a graduate of both University of Calgary and then the University of Cambridge, and is the founder of Reljic Coached, a coaching and consulting company. He's written 2 best-selling books and has received multiple awards for his work. Welcome, Miro. The floor is yours. I'm just going to go ahead with a couple of questions. So in addition to appropriate hard skills, what soft skills can improve your chances for success in landing a new job or in career progression from your own perspective as a career coach?
Thank you, Ramya, so much for having me, and I'm honored to be the part of the closing panel. Great question, and one of my fellow panelists have already mentioned a few of those skills, but I'll speak from my perspective. And I've been in Canada now for 20 years, almost like as Leen. Congratulations, by the way. And excuse me. What I've come across over the past 20 years is that a lot of people come to me and they say, Miro, you know, I work really hard, and how come I cannot get propelled in my career? Or I'm looking for that job and I can't get that job like that they want. And usually it's all about soft skills that people either have and they're not aware of them, or they don't have them because usually soft skills are not learned in school. There's no proper training for them. So for a lot of newcomers, they're kind of thrown in and they don't even know what they are. And I'm going to talk about soft skills that all of you know, and they're people skills. And I'm sure, look at your resume and you'll find them as communication skills. And this is so common, you know, like if I ask someone about people skills, they say, oh, you know, I have great communication skills. I'm a team player. I work well with others. But what does that really mean? It's a big problem because a lot of people use it. They have it on their resume, but they don't really know how to use it. Why? Because people skills, I actually group them in 2 parts. There's conventional. This is what I just talked about. And there's unconventional. And this is where it's so tricky. That's why it's a great question. You know, what skills I would like to talk about. So unconventional skills, no one really talks about them. They are usually, you know, if you have empathy, for example, if something happens at work, do you show empathy to your coworker? If someone asks you for help, do you offer that help from your heart and not expecting anything else? Do you find time to build trust at work? And this is why I work with my clients, believe it or not. It's really, really hard to build trust with other people. And because you have to be vulnerable, you have to be exposed. And if you're looking for a job, this is also really tricky because you're sending those resumes out and you don't get any feedback, you don't get any hints. The worst of all, your mother-in-law is calling you after 500 times and asking you, did you get a job? Or what happened to that role? And you don't know what to say. So there's a lot of actually pressure that comes not only from within you, if you are looking for a job or trying to progress in your career, but there will be a lot of external pressure. So in my work as a career coach and a leadership coach, I do a lot of work around that inner resilience, self-awareness. What do you offer? What kind of skills do you offer? And this is so important because a lot of newcomers tend to forget that, because in other countries, how to get a job is based on your hard skills, but you're not going to progress as a result of your hard skills. You will progress as a result of your soft skills. You will find opportunities as a result of your soft skills. So that's something that's a big problem not for newcomers. And I think it's almost a misconception. It's a problem for anyone who is not studying and learning about this because it's not given. It's something that there's no education for it. So people skills are really important, and especially the ones that are not in your face, so to speak. We don't see them. As I said before, communication skills, everyone knows that. Let me give you this quote. Maya Angelou said this, and honestly, I love this. She said that people forget what you did within an hour or within 5 days, depending on how good of a job you've done. But they will never forget how you made them feel. It's true. If you make someone feel bad, they will never forget that. And later, when we're looking for opportunities, that's going to cause problems. And we'll say, well, how come I have a good relationship with my boss, but I cannot progress under this person? Well, guess what? There's something there that's being hidden. So managing upwards, actually, it's another great skill that a lot of people forget about, and especially for newcomers, because we think that bosses have to manage us, but actually it's the other way around. If you want to progress in Canada, you have to learn how to manage upwards. And I actually I'm really good at that. So I welcome people to ask questions or contact me about it, because that's crucial. And it's hard because it involves, you have to be vulnerable at the same time.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
Yeah.
I interrupted you, Miro.
No problem. Those are my points about soft skills that I find useful.
Great. And to tag on one more question, a number of newcomers end up in jobs they're overqualified for. How can they find jobs that are relevant to their skill sets? What key attributes in terms of soft skills do they need to have to progress in their careers?
Great question, Ramya. I just want to highlight one word that was mentioned there, overqualified. I hear this every day, and I always say I'd rather be overqualified than underqualified. And the reason for that, when you're overqualified, you can always dumb yourself down. If you're underqualified, it's really hard to build your resume up. You can always take stuff out. There's no problem, really easy to do. However, and honestly, I speak this with everyone. So many people say, well, you know what, I'm overqualified and I didn't get the job as a result of that. And I'm like, I kind of feel, and I hear that as an excuse, because it's so easy. And I'm always joking about this. It's so easy to go to your mother-in-law and say, you know what, I didn't get this job because I was overqualified. Well, guess what? Maybe you didn't get it because you're overqualified, but to your question, what attributes you have to have? You have to have positive attitude. If being overqualified, it's an excuse, that's not a positive attitude. That's an excuse. So having positive attitude, looking at people skills as soft skills. Do you have them? Do you understand what they are? If you say, I have strong communication skills, and you send me an email where there's a lot of mistakes, and my friend Catherine, we will collaborate closely together. If you send me an email with a lot of mistakes, well, guess what? I got news for you. And I'm not going to be your mother-in-law. It's going to be like you have a lot of mistakes, mistakes in your email. So if I see it as a coach, your boss will see it as a coach, and your other people will see it as a coach. And therefore you'll be limited. So it's really important to be honest with yourself, regardless in what situation you are. Brilliant people on the panel, we all can help you in a way, and we can refer you if I can refer people if I cannot help you. But the thing is, there's a lot of help out there. It's important to ask.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to ask all of you a question. So Leen, let's start with you then. Garrison, Catherine, and Miro. Given the current situation of COVID, we are all having to develop digital skills. What do you believe are current challenges and opportunities, and how can we respond to them? So if you could take a minute to share your views, that would be great.
This is a great question, also very relevant. I think the challenge is really now at workforce or personal lives, people actually need more support and connection than ever before, given the current situation. What that means is that, as we need to really tap into the soft skills that, we might have used in the past as often, or the soft skills we had in the past meant differently. So what I mean that is, I think one of the most important soft skills, I think it's very important to be able to actually strive in a new community, and also like just like, you know, existing communities, the ability to read other people in the read room and then react and reflect accordingly, right? That's one of the, I think it's very important in a lot of like meeting settings. But now we can see we're all in Zoom. So, you know, once in a while I will observe on your facial impression, but I don't really see your body language. And sometimes when people, you know, stop sharing the videos, you don't really see it, right? So that really create a difficulty side of it, particularly if you're manager or leader in your company. It's like how you can actually be able to connect with the people by just like talking to them on a regular basis to understand whether they have the need or not. So I think that's really kind of hard to do. And in this difficult time, it's more important than ever to do so. So opportunity for a leader and then anyone working in the company is really for us, particularly is like proactively reach out to the team members and then the employees in the company to understand their personal needs and the communication at a very different level, and really kind of beef up our like listening skills, right? Sometimes you're not able to observe body language, but being able to pick the little pieces from how they respond to questions will really help doing that part of it. I think most important thing is really sending the support, being able to learn how to navigate who needs more support when you can reach out.
Great, thank you for that. So next, Garrison, same question. What are your thoughts, given COVID, how are we developing soft skills, and what are the opportunities, and how can we respond to the challenges?
I think it's just an excellent question, and I take it from the perspective of providing language programs. So very recently, I provided some training for my instructors on how to present in a remote setting, keeping people engaged, because you have to use different techniques. People, they can only be online for so long, and then they start losing concentration. Those visual cues that we're used to face-to-face, they can be missed on Zoom, and so part of the education piece around presenting online, you know, how to navigate Zoom, MS Teams, and really provide a program that engages the students, engages your audience, and keep the information relevant as well. Another thing I'd like to present as a challenge, and it's not about soft skills, but it's about access. The challenge we're having are for the newcomers to have technology, access to technologies like laptops and tablets. So fortunately enough, some of our funders have come back to support clients through that, and help us to give them those tablets that they need, bringing our students in and teaching them how to use the technology and how to communicate. Soft skills in a remote setting can be very, very challenging. So one of the things what someone can do, keep it concise. You know, when you get on a Zoom meeting or a remote meeting, make sure you have your presentation all laid out in a concise manner. It's important to ask, did everyone understand what I'm saying? Ask more questions. Be very keen on what's going on in the chat, because there's often very good questions that come across in the chat, or there's the hands up feature that can be missed. So learning those cues and how to navigate and control the online environment, and it's very, very important.
Thank you. And Catherine, over to you. Same question. Catherine? We can't hear you.
Skills in the time of COVID, that's a big question and a big concern for my followers. One thing that it's done in Vancouver anyway, for interesting jobs in the tech sector and the engineering sector, I would imagine in most sectors, an employer or an HR manager would receive about 200 applications for that job. So a lot of people qualified for that job. with COVID and not needing to be in a physical location, you can imagine that the numbers are larger. There are people all over the place that could take that job and actually bring some great skills to it. So that's a concern for many, that the pool is getting even more difficult to swim in. And as Garrison was mentioning, the virtual aspect, time lag, if you don't have great internet connection, can be a problem. People need to see your face very clearly. So you don't want to be down here, and you don't want to be up here, and you don't want to sort of be off on the side. We need as much of the full face as we can get. I've got a light on me, that helps. But they also probably need your hands. So your hands are the place where you're going to be able to say, oh, I love that, or not so sure. We do some things with our hands that, as Leen was saying, it's missing because it's down here where you can't see it. I would say do your best to keep your hand up somewhere where someone could see. Short and sweet, yes, it's very important in terms of allowing people to have their chance. So if you're in a team meeting situation, it will be poorly seen if you take more than your time slot. And so some cultures are going to have the floor, but that doesn't work very well in Canada or the States, where you put something out there and then quite soon you actually invite some kind of comment. The polite way to comment is a very short yes, no, maybe, talk to you later, so that the person can continue to present. But there is a bit more back and forth that should happen, and that's partly where Garrison is looking at the short answers and shorter interactions on Zoom and on Team, if you can manage it. So those are my 2 cents on communication virtually.
Great, thank you. And Miro, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you for asking. So over the past 5 years, I just published the book last year about insights into effective coaching. And I've done actually a lot of research about how do you communicate online, because over the past 5 years, 80% of my clients are actually online, and that's in the book. So the biggest finding is the importance of safe space. This cannot, it's so important. So what does that mean? So that means if you are working from home, especially now because COVID, a lot of people work in their home, but they will, their families at home, their pets are at home, their dogs are at home. If you're interviewing for a job and you know that you have that 1 hour, it's really important to take it seriously. So, you can't have 2 dogs running behind you. If kids are screaming, okay, yeah, kids are screaming, I'm sorry, but that's going to ruin your chances. It's really important to take it seriously as if you're in the rooms with the person. Because before COVID, we would sit down in the same room. So the safe space, guess what, was created for you by the employer. Now the shift is that the safe space you have to create for the employer. And this is so important. If it's not created, many opportunities will be missed. What are the opportunities? Opportunities are endless. There are so many if people know how to use them. Number one is online education. Just do quick Google search. There's hundreds of courses that are online now. 6 months ago, they weren't even online because you had to go into a class. Now you can register today and you can start improving your skills. So whatever you want to get those jobs, or if you want to promote yourself. Those are my 2 cents for this conversation.
Great advice. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I think we have time for one question. We'll see. So this is a question about video calls. With COVID, I have more video and phone calls, and I'm more self-conscious. Any advice to getting over my nervousness? Where do you want to start? Miro, do you want to start off responding to this?
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, good. That's a great question. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get the name, but nervousness, anxiousness is actually, it's bread and butter. So why am I saying this? A lot of people, when they're nervous, they'll say, I'm not nervous, I'm strong. Well, guess what? You gotta honor it. It's actually, if I'm nervous during these times, I acknowledge that every morning. I'm nervous, I'm okay, I'll be okay. Oh, I didn't get that opportunity. That speaking gig I didn't get. Oh, fine, I'm gonna be okay. So you have to have this pep talk every single day. It sounds crazy, but a lot of people I speak to, they say, oh, you're nervous. Oh, don't be nervous. What's wrong with you? I'm like, hello, you gotta acknowledge, great question. You gotta acknowledge how you feel.
Can I add to that? May I add to that?
Please.
It's such a great point. You do have to just switch the language in your head and just say, I am excited about this. I'm excited about this conversation coming up. And that's a really good point, Miroslav, to bring in. And rehearse in the beginning, and it will become natural. Rehearse in front of a mirror. I still do that.
So, Catherine, do you want to go next? And then we'll go to Leen.
I'd love to.
Okay.
It's the number one fear, the phone. It's like so terrible. And yet I rely on it now. It's a way of connecting with someone in a much more personal scenario than we've got with virtual. I want to hear their voice. I want to recognize them. They are an individual person, not just an image on the screen. The people that you are going to be employed by, if it has anything to do with the boomer population, so a lot of healthcare, a lot of technology, you're talking to people who still have some money because they're the generation that typically had a pension. They can't hear you. My dad has hearing aids, and he says, could you please email me? And you would not believe the number of times the person will not understand that he's asking for the email because he wants exactly what they said in the phone call. So you made an appointment for me for glasses. I don't remember, I can't hear all the times and the dates. Please send me an email to follow up. But he really wanted the personal connection because he's all by himself because of COVID. He hasn't got a lot of connection with others because he's a senior. So the phone is coming back, I think, strongly, just as much as the tech is. So I would say, knowing that it's a game that you're playing on the phone, and the game is with the intention that you will both win, right? Both people on that phone call want this to work. So ask more questions, go in deeper, start spelling things out if they can't understand. Whatever happens, don't take offense. If they ask you to repeat, they wanted to hear you. If they didn't want to, they would just hang up. So understand that it is a game that you're both playing with a desired outcome. And I think that will take some of the pressure off as well. And if you can, take your phone call in front of a mirror, maybe not in the bathroom because it echoes, it sounds like a bathroom, but it will remind you to smile because you want that person to have your beautiful, welcoming personality coming through to them. So those are my tips.
Great, thank you. And Leen?
Catherine, I think I'm gonna have like slightly opposite tips from you depending on the situation. So like two practical things for me work for me because now we work from home. I use Zoom almost every single day, multiple meetings. I found for important calls, important meetings, dress up, just like you're seeing that person in person is very important to build that level of confidence. Also the formality is that instead of working from home, I'm dressing up. I just get a sense of like, hey, I'm meeting this person in person, and also build a confidence level. Second thing is I just recently learned on Zoom, you can actually choose to hide self-view. So right now we're on Zoom. Normally in a meeting, you have a meeting of like 4 or 5 people, you have yourself there. I found sometimes you tend to focus on yourself and get distracted. It was like, oh, I look not so good, or I don't do this, don't do that. But once in a while, try to really hide self-view so you don't really see yourself. on the Zoom call, I feel I focus more on the conversation and listening to other people instead of getting distracted. So depending on the situation, depending on the meeting, I found it's very helpful for me as useful tips.
Great, thank you so much. So we have a couple more questions, but I think we should wrap up, if that's okay. So this has been an excellent closing session with all of you. Thank you, Leen, Catherine, Garrison, and Miro for taking time to speak with us today, and for all your excellent insights. And we'd like to say thank you to our presenting sponsor, the Bank of Montreal, our platinum sponsors, Immigration Consultants of Canada Regulatory Council, BC Responsible and Problem Gambling Program, our gold sponsors, PICS BC and British Council IELTS, our silver sponsor, Fair Grant Writing, and all our exhibitors. So the fair today closes at 4 p.m. PST. So, we're starting to, I believe, close the exhibitor floor, but we're going to have an Eastern panel, an Eastern fair on Friday. So once again, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So feel free to join us on Friday. We'll have a different set of exhibitors and the same panels, but a variety of different speakers. So thank you once again. It was a pleasure to have all of you speak, and thank you for sharing your valuable time with us. And if there are questions that we haven't got to, we'll email it to you. So please send us an email to info@canadianimmigrant.ca. And if our speakers have shared their contact, send it to them directly or send it to us and we'll forward them on. Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye.
pleasure. Yeah, bye everyone.